Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I am truly pleased for this week's guest, Dorinda Walker. I met Dorinda a couple years ago at a conference, and we have stayed in touch. She's been an amazing resource for me, and so I just knew that my listeners would love to hear from her and her journey, which has been amazing. So welcome to the podcast, Dorinda Walker, CEO, author, mom, you name it, she's doing it. Dorinda, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Simone. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So tell our listeners a little bit about your story and perhaps the highlights of your career journey.
Sure. So I started out in financial services as a temp over 20 years ago. And I exceeded at every job that I had, even though I wasn't qualified on paper. And so fast forward, I was able to create my own job, doing what I love, loving what I do as a multicultural marketer. And, you know, my career journey has been amazing. I've been named one of the 25 most influential women in business. Forbes named me one of the top speakers and leaders in the country. And I've received numerous accolades. And, you know, to see where I started and to where, you know, how far I have gotten is amazing to me. I still can't believe it. And after 20 years of service, I decided that I wanted to do things on my own terms. So I retired from financial services and started my own company called Cultural Solutions Group. And it's a marketing consultancy that helps small business owners develop strategies to work with big brands and helps big brands develop strategies to engage diverse consumers, but not only from a sales and marketing perspective, but also from a talent and community and social giving perspective. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, I'm an author. My book, Protected by Purpose, launched last April, and I've been touring the country for over a year now promoting the book, and it's just been amazing.
That is so amazing. I want to rewind because I started out as a temp, but you know, your story is amazing. So tell us how you were able to navigate, and it sounds like you were already in the driver's seat, you know, creating your own role that you loved. So tell us a little bit about the how you made that happen.
Sure. So early in my career, I was really trying to just figure it out, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be in the career. And I learned that I was really good at project management, but I was also really creative. And it lended well to marketing because I was able to use those creative juices and also that mindset I had at getting things done to really show that I could lead. And I have a passion for diversity and inclusion as well. So I started volunteering for diversity and inclusion initiatives. I became a co-chair of the Black Resource Employee Group. And I kept hearing the same thing from the Employee Resource Group members that financial services companies needed to do a better job of marketing to women and people of color. So instead of complaining about it, I said, well, let me do something about it. So I wrote a proposal as to why the company should focus on women in multicultural markets. I presented it to 2 senior executives. They loved it. One became an executive sponsor. And we started out just having symposiums where we were bringing external experts to educate the people in the marketing the lawyers and risk people, because, in financial services, if they don't buy into it, it doesn't get done. And it just took off. And, employees were really engaged, and senior leadership said, we're going to make this one of our strategic imperatives. And that was in 2009. And in 2012, the COO approved the department. And so I created the job that I loved, doing what I loved. And since then, I've been able to help so many, organizations and people of color really engage with the company. And that's how I actually, created this big external brand for myself, which really wasn't the goal, but because I was the spokesperson and I had the passion for it, and I had the cultural competency and also the business competency, because I knew the infrastructure of the business, but I also knew, what motivates consumers. It just worked out, and, resulted in awards on both. My team had awards on both the B2C side, so business to consumer, and also on business to business. And it really propelled my career, and I'm really excited about that.
What I love about that is that I can totally relate from leading a employee resource group standpoint, because I was leading the African Heritage Employees Group, and it was really a game changer for my career. So I am inspired to hear that about you and to see how you have propelled yourself from that space. That's wonderful. Wonderful. So tell us, just based on both the corporate learning and the external learning that you're doing as an entrepreneur now, what do you see as your formula for owning your career?
It's basically I look at my 20 years in corporate America as an investment. So the company invested in me. And so I'm taking all those learnings and investing in my business. So, all of the relationships that I was able to build, I can keep, which has been great, because since I retired from corporate America, I haven't skipped a beat. I'm still on industry panels. I'm still being recommended for business. And my business model is to work with other business consultants and freelancers. So I don't have to hire staff. I hire people as I need them for different projects, which for me is much more beneficial, because I don't have that overhead and won't have to struggle as much financially as I'm starting to get my business on the ground. So that's really how I'm approaching it, and we'll see. I'm only a month and a half in, so.
Awesome. Awesome. You didn't take a break. You didn't skip a beat. You jumped right in.
I did, because I love what I do, and I'm very passionate about it. And one of the things that I want to do more of is really focus on creating more equity for women and also people of color. So if I can help companies develop campaigns that really impact their talent, their marketing, and their corporate social responsibility and social investments, I think that would be phenomenal. That's like the dream I have.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I would say you have the right foundation and connections to definitely bring that to fruition. Wonderful. Can you talk to us about how taking risk has served your career journey?
Sure. So, I'm not one of those people that likes to complain. So when I saw that there was an issue, I always tried to think about what's the solution and how could I be the person who delivers that solution? Because what I learned in corporate America very quickly is if you're the person who can provide solutions, then you get the green chips in the executive's pocket. So then therefore, it results in sponsors and people who want to advocate for you because they know you can deliver. So, as much you take risks throughout your career, and not be a person that just goes with the flow. And that doesn't mean you have to disrupt everything, but when there's an opportunity where you can be a change agent or disruptor to make something better, you should absolutely go for it. Even if you're fearful, the worst that's going to happen is people say no or you fail, but you're going to learn from it and you get back up, and then you know not to make that mistake again.
You mentioned the term sponsor, and I'm a big believer in sponsor. Can you talk to the audience about the power of sponsorship? I know a lot of people know about mentoring, but not so much sponsorship and how key it is.
Sure. So the sponsor is the person who recommends you behind closed doors when you don't even know about it. That's the person that says, I know that she can do it. She's proven herself, and they're advocating for you to get the next big thing, versus a mentor who tries to give you guidance on how to do things. The sponsor is the one that's actually saying, put her in that position. So that's the difference. And it's, without a sponsor in your corporate career, you really don't have a lot of opportunity for mobility. So, a lot of times I hear people say, well, I can't get that promotion, or I can't get ahead. But they're not networking with people who don't look like them, particularly people of color. We have to network with the white executives, because those are the people who are typically in power, who will advocate. And throughout my career, it's been primarily the white executives who've advocated for me. In fact, when I got my first promotion, it was 2 white executives that called my VP who didn't even know who I was. And because I volunteered for a diversity and inclusion initiative, and I was their project manager, they were executive sponsors. And I did a great job. So they called my VP and said, what are you doing to groom Dorinda? And she didn't even know who I was. So she took me under her wing. And then she became my advocate and sponsor and gave me other opportunities, which helped propel me to the next level. So, it's really important that you network with people, a diverse group of people in the organization, but particularly the leadership. And they may not look like you.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice that we don't always get. So it's great to reiterate that. Can you think of a moment in your career that you perhaps avoided responsibility and what you did to overcome that moment?
Just recently. So 2018 was the best year of my career. I was touring the country promoting my book and having a lot of success with the book, but my corporate career wasn't as challenging or passionate as I wanted to be, because there was some organizational changes and I was given a different role and responsibility that really didn't align to where I wanted to go. And instead of me speaking up at the very beginning, I just rolled with the flow. And I didn't take responsibility for my own career. And as a result, I was miserable going to work. I was spiraling into this depression because I felt like, okay, I feel like God is telling me it's time to go, but I don't have the courage to leave this corporate title and this steady salary. And I was fearful of, losing that VP title and maybe losing some prestige. I thought, that was my perception. And then I heard the voice of God say to me, who do you work for? Right? And it's like, okay, as a woman of faith, I work for Jesus. So that intellectual property, those talents and those gifts that I have come with me wherever I go. So I had to take responsibility and say, Dorinda, you have to own your career. And that's when I made the decision to say, hey, I need to retire. I need to move on to my next for my own peace of mind and for what I believe that God is calling me to do in the next chapter of my career.
That is beautiful. So beautiful. Wonderful. So what advice would you give to someone wanting to own their career?
In today's marketplace and workplace, I feel it's very valuable to create a brand for yourself. I did it kind of by accident, but I'm so glad that I did, because what I've learned about corporate America, and particularly because so many people have reached out to me, after reading my blogs and seeing my career journey, asking for advice. The biggest thing is creating a brand for yourself in your industry, whether it's marketing, whether it's technology, whatever it is. that's important because you have to be marketable, because now we're in, it's more and more becoming this gig economy where corporations don't have to hire those full-timers. So that, ideal of working in a job for 30 years and retiring is probably no longer going to happen. So you have to have the autonomy to be flexible and marketable. And if you don't have your own brand, it makes it that much harder because there's so much competition. And so, building your brand would be the best advice that I could give anyone in their respective industries.
Absolutely. You need to stand apart from your company brand. You need to be able to stand on your own as a brand. And, that goes back to your comment about really being savvy with networking. It's networking inside the organization as well as outside so that people know who you stand for, what your brand essentially is. I agree with that. Now, what online tools have you leveraged that have helped you in your career?
LinkedIn has been the best tool for me. I make sure that my profile stays up to date. I make sure that I engage. And it's been very helpful. I get a lot of my speaking opportunities through LinkedIn. Also, when it was time for me to write my book, it was important that I had a strong following on social media. So building, a following on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram was beneficial for me to get my book deal because I didn't want to self-publish. So social media is a strong tool if you use it strategically. In the beginning with social media, I used Facebook for family and friends. And then Twitter, I use, as a business tool to engage with other people in the industry. And then, because my following had became pretty significant, the brand that I work for actually used me as an influencer to promote the things that they were doing and the messages that they wanted to, portray and give out to their consumer base and clients. So it really worked out for me. So I would recommend to anyone who's looking to be an influencer or, be known as a subject matter expert in a particular field, to really use social media as a strategic tool to promote their points of view on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and really use LinkedIn as a tool to build their professional network, to showcase their points of view when it comes to business, because that will hopefully enable them to secure new business opportunities. And that goes back to your brand and making sure that you build your brand, because it gives you flexibility, it gives you opportunities, and it gives you options. So a lot of times people, they call me and say, Dorinda, I'm really stuck in my career. I don't know what to do. It's because they don't have options. And when you build a brand and you're able to create flexibility for yourself and opportunities for yourself, it gives you options so you're not stuck in a position that you may not want to be in.
Awesome. Dorinda, I think I will speak for our listeners and say we could probably listen to you all day. Just awesome nuggets that you're sharing. Thank you so much. Please, are there any parting words before we wrap up? This has been amazing.
My parting words would be, if there's a vision in your head, that's the vision that God is telling you you're capable of achieving. So it's up to you to put in the work with fortitude to make it happen. And I promise you, the outcome will be much bigger and better than you ever could have imagined if you put in the work, because I'm a living testament to that.
Awesome. Tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you.
Sure. My website is dorindawalker.com, and I am Dorinda Walker on all social media and Dorinda J. Walker on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It has been wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.